Good morning, Pesahim and Vav, Amoud Yomi, towards the bottom of the page. We were speaking yesterday about a few interesting halachot would have to do with time. So we're just going to review them. We're going to say, after the Mishnah, into the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Akish. So the second line, a little bit lower than that actually. Amar Rabbi Abahu, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Akish. So first we're going to learn is Rabbi Shimon ben Akish. You see it? First word on line. Memvav Amoud Aleph, past the Mishnah, past the Gemara. Fourth or fifth line past the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Akish. Everybody has it? Ligaben ulitfilah unitilat yadayim arba minin. So three halachot over here that Rabbi Shimon ben Akish, Resh Lakish said that you have to travel up to 4 milin. A milin is the time that it takes to walk it's about 18 minutes. 18 minutes is the time that it takes to walk a mil. So obviously 4 will be 72 minutes. These halachot pertain to a person who is a gabal. A gabal is a person that we hire him to make dough. Could be, I need to make bread, so you're going to work for me. I'm going to give you dough, I'm going to give you flour, I'm going to give you bowls, and I need you to work. The problem is I gave you a bowl which was tameh. So now, obviously, you're supposed to give me pure bread. But so part of the job, self-understood, inside the contract that we didn't sign, is that if you get an impure bowl, you got to walk 72 minutes in each direction to go put in the mikveh and bring it back. We don't have to walk more than 72 minutes. It's self-understood, it's within reason to make you walk an hour and 12 minutes there, an hour 12 minutes back to put my bowl in the mikveh. You're getting paid for the hour anyways, so that's self-understood. If it is more than that time, so you don't have to do it, you're allowed to go ahead and make it with tummy bread and say, that's what you gave me, too bad for you. Now also for tefillah, to pray with the minyan. If you're now traveling, you're traveling from Montreal to Ottawa, and you want to stop and pray shachit, or you want to stop and pray arvit. We tell you 1 second. In another half an hour, there's going to be a shul. Anyways, you have to pray. Anyways, you have time to pray. Don't pray now. Continue and wait for 1 hour and 12 minutes, and pray when you get to the place. When you get to that place, you have to delay your tefillah for 1 hour and 12 minutes if you are anyways traveling in that direction. The same thing with netilat yadayim. You want to watch for bread. There's no water where you are, and you're hungry. However, there will be water within the next 112 minutes. 72 minutes. I'm sorry, 72 minutes, and you are traveling anyways. You're going that way anyways. But I'm hungry now. You're right, but you have to watch. So we make you wait 1 hour and 12 minutes in order to get the water, to be able to wash your bread. The Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Aivo Amra. So Rav Nachman says it wasn't Resh Lakish who said these halachot. It was Aivo, and he didn't say 3. He said 4. Ve'arba Amar, and he said 4 of them. V'chada minayu Amoud, and one of the last ones which we didn't mention, the first 3 are correct, just it wasn't Resh Lakish, it was Aivo, and the last one was Amoud. Amoud is a tanner, a person who tans leathers. Ditnan kulan shibdan o shilach bahen kedei avoda teorin chutz mior adam. You know that skin is like the meat of an animal. The meat of an animal is mitameh. It becomes tameh. So if you have a kazait or a kabetz of food, of a skin of a piece of an animal, will become tameh. What happens about the skin as well? Is that mikabel tuma in mikabel tuma and gives up tuma? Yes, it is. At which point does it stop becoming part of the animal, and now it's something else that it doesn't receive tuma anymore? That's when you start to process the leather. But at what point does it change from animal to leather? At which point does it change from skin to leather? So the Gemara says, all of them shibdan, if you tan them, or shilach bahem kedei avoda teorin, or if you walk to them. I don't know if you know that, but the first step in tanning the leather back then was actually to crush the leather, to step on it. You get the skin off and you start pressing it down. You step on it. So they would actually put it in places where people were walking. They would put it out in the streets so people would walk and step on it, no choice, and horses and all that. So it would actually crush it down. I guess it's part of the beginning of the process. So that will take it away from the status of tuma. By the way, it only works for animals. It doesn't work for a human. A human, Chamim wanted to leave on it the fact that it becomes tameh, because we never wanted people to start using skin of a person to start making leather. So we kept it that it's always tameh for whatever reason. The Gemara continues. I never saw that Tana. It says over here, so if you walked on it, the time that it takes 72 minutes, so then it loses its status of skin, and now it's already going to be status of leather. Obviously, you don't have to walk in it yourself. People walked on it for 72 minutes, then it becomes leather and it's not skin. When we said over here 72 minutes, which I already put in the pshat, it's 72 minutes going forward. You are traveling in that direction. You want to wash for bread, you're going in that way. you won't have those Amoraim over there. Oh, Rabbi Yossi, you won't have them there. Aval lachorav afilu min. But backwards, even min eno tzarich lazo. I passed the place. I'm going towards this. I'm going northwards. But all of a sudden, I realized that southwards there was water. So now I passed it. So do you have to go back? Well, if you're going anyways direction, you got to wait up to 72 minutes. But backwards, even 18 minutes you don't have to go. Even a min you don't have to go. You missed the water, but I'm going this way. But go back into the water. Or you're going this way and you missed the minyan. The minyan is that way, but I'm going this way. I got to travel. So you don't have to go back. 18 minutes. Amar Avacha, umina min. Umina min hu de'enu. Umina, from here we learn, mina min hu de'enu chozer. Hapachod mimin chozer. But less than a min, you actually have to go back. From here we're learning very interesting halacha, that less than a meal, you got to go in any direction and even lose your advancement. So if you're traveling this way and you missed, it happened to me on the way to Lakewood, so it's not pashut to catch a mincha. On the way back we left, let's say 9:45 in the morning from Lakewood. We went to Ribnitz Kevin. The Ribnitz Yortzeit was on Isuchan. But then to leave to Montreal, we wanted to leave at 12 or 12:30. If we leave at 12:30, we're going to get to Montreal by 6 to 7, and we're going to miss mincha. So I have to stick around. I sticked around in Monsey to pray mincha. By the way, I saw people at the border looking for minyan because they didn't do that. They thought they were going to make it. At the gas station before, they didn't have a minyan. So we stuck around, we prayed mincha. So now if you're going to lose time, well, too bad. You're going to lose 18 minutes backwards. You got to go back to Monsey, go back to Montreal, go back to Toronto, go back, catch the minyan, so long as it's 17 minutes. 17 minutes and 59 seconds, you got to go back. 18 minutes, you don't have to go back. That's the halacha. The same thing with you sitting in your office or sitting in your house.
You have a doubt? You have a safek whether it's 17 minutes or 19 minutes, and it depends what time of day with the traffic, etc.
So it's funny because many times Arvit, we miss Arvit, right? Kotzenluk, the last Arvit is probably, I think now
9:30.
9:45 by Bells or by Benolia. Maybe there's another one 10 o'clock somewhere, I'm not sure. Some places they say 9:45 is plus tax, so it's, you can catch it. Happened to me a few times. But otherwise, you have at Square in Outremont every half an hour until Chatzot Laila. So you have even till sometimes 1 in the morning in the certain times of the year. So 11:30, 12:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1 o'clock, you're going to have a minyan. The question is, how far is Square from here? So I did the calculation a few times. Depends. In the summer at night, it's 18 minutes, less than 18 minutes. You can get there in 17 minutes. Now, if you drive slow and there's winter and there's traffic, you won't make it. So you're right. I would say it's a suffix Rukula, but the Chafetz Chaim is more machmir. If you're sitting in your house, he says you have to go up to 1 hour. He said you should go 4 meal for a minyan. So 18 minutes is the halacha. Chafetz Chaim, I think I remember well, is machmir. But 18 minutes is the halacha to go chap a minyan. That is the halacha. Huh? 18 minutes. So if you have Westbury has at 10:45, I think also 10:15. Yeah. Westbury has 10:15. Sometimes I catch that one.
What's Westbury? Is it Chai Center?
No, Westbury is Lubavitch on Westbury. Yeshiva Lubavitch, where everybody used to pray. God. Okay, so up to meal for the same thing for water. You're sitting in your house. There's no water. You got to go 18 minutes to get water for Netilat Yadayim. Okay, the Gemara says, "Ketsan mafrishin chala b'tuma b'yom tov." We got to make some leeway. It's not hard. It's very interesting. So you have on Yom Tov, what happens? So now you're at Yom Tov and Pesach, and you are making dough. And now, when you're making dough, of course, you have to take from the dough. You got to take a little piece and give it to the Kohen, and that's called chala. And of course, the challah, you can bake it. You can bake everything. So now imagine a regular situation. I'm making matzah on Pesach. I have my dough. I take a little piece of the dough. I make it for the Kohen. I even bake it for him. So this is mine. This is the Kohen's. And I come to the Kohen and say, Mr. Kohen, here's your matzah. That's very good. Why am I allowed to bake on Yom Tov? I'm allowed to bake on Yom Tov because it's to eat. I'm going to eat it on Yom Tov. What happens if the dough becomes tamid? It's fine for you. You're not a Kohen. You're still allowed to eat tamid dough. You're allowed to eat tamid matzah. But the Kohen can't eat tamid truma. And neither can you. So what permission is there to bake it? Seemingly, no permission. We're not talking about the first night of Pesach. We're talking about Chol Moed. We're talking anytime. We're talking about different truma. So truma became dominant. So what are you going to do? So you have a big problem. Now if you leave it, it's going to come chametz. So if you just leave it to rise, it's going to come chametz. So you're stuck. So what do you do? Keitzan mafrishin chala b'tuma b'yom tov. Got it's clear? Mm-hmm. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Lo tikran Hashem ad shetafeh. So good, here's an itzah. Usually what you do is you take the dough, you mafrish the dough, and you take the dough and you bake the dough. And the dough is already truma. But what if you bake it first and then take a piece of your bread? You do that as well. You're allowed to do that. Now that's a problem because you're going to break every piece of bread. But let's say every challah you bake a piece and you want to full challahs. You're allowed to do that. There's another way is that when you put them in a big basket, it becomes one big dough. It's like one big challah. You can actually give one of the smaller challahs to the Kohen. You're allowed to do what that Rashi says. So that's the way to do it. Don't call it challah.
But sorry, on the same concept, I saw people say like, oh, they didn't take the turma, so this is the turma. Take actually a piece from the bread.
Sure.
Actually, after it's baked itself.
Oh yeah, that's if you come to a place where they didn't take truma. If they didn't give challah,
yes.
So you can take it yourself afterwards. You can do that. You know it's kosher challah, but then exactly what we're saying to do here. Bake everything, bake the matzah, take a piece and say this will be enough for the Kohen. That is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. The Ben Betera says, Omer, tatir mitzonen. No, take the dough and throw it in cold water. If you take the dough and throw it in cold water, nobody's going to eat it, not going to bake it, and it's going to prevent it from becoming chametz. If you leave it on the open, it's going to become chametz. But if you put it in cold water, put it in cold water. Take the dough, it's chad. This is owned by the Kohen, whichever Kohen, put in the water. That's for sure good etzah. Amar Bishua, lo zeu chametz, shmusarin ana. Bibadi ra'eh bani matzeh. Says Rabbi Eliezer, says Rabbi Yeshua, that's not at all chametz. That you're not allowed. Rabbi Yeshua says it's not chametz. You're not allowed to own. We said before the pasuk says lo yira'eh licha chametz, lo yira'eh licha seo. You're not allowed to eat chametz. You're not allowed to sow. So what does that mean? You can't. But you see that if you have a goyish one in your possession, it's not a sow. If you're the gizbar of the Beit Hamikdash, you work for the Beit Hamikdash, and you have challah, you have chametz. It's not yours. It's okay. So what's the halacha? So the halacha is it's not yours as well. This is owned by a Kohen. It's not mine. So he says, what do you do? Ela mafrisha o manichta ad ha'erev b'michmitza ichmitza. So Rabbi Yeshua says, take it aside, put it there. If it becomes chametz, it's chametz. It's not your problem. So Rabbi Eliezer says you have a problem, and Rabbi Yeshua says you have no problem. That's not mine. That's the Kohen's, and I have no isser. And it's no individual Kohen's because we didn't give it to Kohen. It's owned in general by Kohanim.
But you don't machshir otam?
We're not giving it to them. We're going to throw it in the garbage. We're going to burn it after Pesach. Now the problem is, by the way, you can't. Rashi said you can't burn it. You can't bake. Seemingly, you can't bake it. Seemingly, you can't burn it, and you can't bake it because you can't bake on Yom Tov something you're not going to eat. You're only allowed to cook if you're going to eat it. So you can't bake it. You can't burn it because you can't burn something for no reason on Yom Tov. And if you just leave it, it's going to chametz. So three ways. Rabbi Eliezer says bake it and then take the challah afterwards. Rabbi Yeshua says no, leave it and become chametz. It's not your chametz. It's owned by the Hashem, which he gives to the Kohanim, and there's no Kohen to give it to. So you put it on the table, it becomes chametz, it's chametz. If not, if it doesn't become chametz, burn it after Yom Tov, no problem. And Betera gives another shita, which everybody will agree it works. Put it in cold water, that shouldn't become chametz.
What would you say he's just exempt from doing it?
You're not exempt.
Not exempt.
No.
Anyway, it's not going to go anywhere. So why can't
You're not exempt. You still have to. You still have to give it.
When you're not giving it, you're throwing your.
Yes, but you can't eat your food until you give you tithe it. You're not allowed to give your. You're gonna have to throw everything out. You're gonna have to throw everything out. You're not gonna be able to make anything with the dough. And by the way, the dough is a big problem because the dough you can't. The dough is all tummy. You're making it. Okay, it wasn't tummy. Now a rat comes in. It's tummy. What are you gonna do now? If you leave it like that, it's chametz. If you bake it, well, you can eat yours, but the Kohen can't eat his. What do you do? Anyway, so what does Rabbi Eliezer say? Give the truma after you bake it. And according to Rabbi Yeshua, it's not yours. It's no problem. Leima betovat hana kamiflige. Maybe the machloket over here is tovat hana. Do you own that? Why is Rabbi Yeshua saying don't bake it? And why is Rabbi Eliezer saying don't bake it? Why is Rabbi Yeshua saying bake it? Maybe the machloket is, are you owner of it? But why is Rabbi Yeshua saying it's a problem? Maybe Rabbi Yeshua is saying, why was Rabbi Eliezer saying it's a problem? Because maybe Rabbi Eliezer is saying you own the chametz. I don't own it, it's the Kohen's. Yes, you do own something. It's called tovat hana'ah. What tovat hana'ah, Rashi explains, is let's say your daughter's going to marry a Kohen, and you have a neighbor. So your daughter married a Kohen, and you come to John, listen, John, you got a lot of truma. Do me a favor. Here's $10. Give all your truma to my son. Okay? Yeah, my son-in-law. Yeah, my grandson. Give my grandson, you have $100 of truma, and he's going to give it away. Here's a little tip, $10. Yeah, you're allowed to keep that money. So you see that since you're allowed to get a tip, tovat hana'ah, to decide where you're going to give, Meiser is not yours. You know, when you make 10% is not yours. You got to give it away. But you choose where you give to. I want to give to this shul. I want to give to that shul. I want to give to this poor guy. You're allowed to. So you have tovat hana'ah. What if I come and tell you, like, by the way, the best people, somebody's in business can raise a lot of money. Because if I buy from you a lot of products, I use your service, I use your cleaning, I use your accounting. We have your people for the campaign. They call them their accountant. He gives them tons of business. He says, you're giving a donation. He says, no, I have my own shul. He says, you're giving donation. If you want my business next year. He does that. He's allowed to do it. It works. And even if he doesn't say it outright.
They're just not going to say no.
If he doesn't say it outright, so the guy a guy who buys from a lot of people, it's a perk of the job. I'm giving you by my business. You're going to give my shul. Huh? I know rabbis that do business, and that's how they make money for their kola. They do business. Anytime you want to do business, fine. But the mice is going to the go. So maybe, a little bit, but a little bit. So that's called tovat hana. Since I can give you a tip, since that you could get some money, maybe it's like you own the chametz. So if you own the chametz, make sure that you don't let it become chametz, because that's yours. So maybe Rabbi Eliezer says that's yes, a problem. You own it. That's why don't let it become chametz. You should bake it and then give it to the truma. Give it, or maybe Rabbi Yeshua says no, it's not yours. That's what the Gemara says. Leima b'tovat hana kamiflege. The Rabbi Eliezer savar tovat hana mamon. The Rabbi Yeshua savar tovat hana ena mamon. One's going to say it's considered your property, and one's going to say it's not your property. The Gemara says lo dikul hama savar savre tovat hana ena mamon. No, that's not. The fact that I could get $1 because I'm going to give you my truma doesn't make that it's my truma. It's your truma. But the fact that I'm going to get tipped has nothing to do, it gives no bearing, has no bearing on the ownership of the challah. So that's not the machloket. V'acha behu'id kamiflik. There's a halakha which is called hu'in. Hu'in means if. The Rabbi Eliezer savar amrinan hu'in, v'bai ishtayin ala mamona itshilane mamone hava hu. The Rabbi Yeshua savar lo amrinan hu'in. Hu'in means I could do something. We're going to see this concept comes a lot of times in Alchat. It's very interesting. That means hu'in means yes. So imagine a regular case. I have my dough, okay? I have a lot of dough, and I take this dough, and I give it, this will be set aside for truma. Then later what happens, I decide, no, I want this dough. I want, this one tastes better than this one. I'm going to do ataran nedarim. I'm going to take back this dough, and I'm going to give the other dough in the other fridge. I'm allowed to do that. So the machloket, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, is since you could do something to regain possession, do we consider it already now in your possession? Rabbi Yeshua says no. So long as you don't do that, it's not yours. And Rabbi Eliezer says, since you could do that, we consider it already now in your possession. That's the machloket Rabbi Eliezer and Yeshua. That's why Rabbi Eliezer says, since you could get it back, so don't let it become chametz in your possession. And Rabbi Yeshua says, so long as you didn't do it, it's not yours. You're allowed to let it become chametz. The Gemara says, itma. Yom Tov Lechol. So now, are you allowed to bake Yom Tov? Comes Yom Tov, you're allowed to start baking cake and bread for the next day, which is chol. Obviously, you're not allowed to. Why is it that we're allowed to cook on Yom Tov? Because the Torah says, Kol asher tochan, ach et asher yochal. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov for whatever you can eat on Yom Tov. Okay? So, itma, ofemi Yom Tov lechol, Rav Chizda amar lokeh. Rab amar enu lokeh. What happens if a person did cook on Yom Tov for the next day, Wednesday? So Rabba says...
Usually we cook more anyway.
Huh?
When you cook, you don't cook just exact quantities of the day. You cook, there's always leftovers.
What do you cook before?
Today nobody's cooking and baking on Yom Tov.
Yeah.
Your wife is baking on Yom Tov?
Not baking. No.
She's cooking?
Cooking, yeah.
Okay. So now...
If you make a barbecue,
yes.
some people do barbecues.
Yes. Now, before the Suda, you'll have to make a big extra. And the Gemara speaks about that. When you fill up the bowl, when you fill up the pan, when you fill up the oven, it cooks better. More food will make it cook better. You know that? So you're allowed to fill it up for the taste of this. And there's a little bit left over, it's okay. But you finished eating. You're not going to eat anymore. I'm done. Now you're going to start making bread for the next day. You're making it clearly for the next day. In the afternoon, we're done the Suda, everybody's full, nobody wants to eat bread. So what's the halakha if you did it? So according to Rav Chizda, you get makot. Rabba says you don't get makot. Rav Chizda amar okay. Lo amrinan hu'in. Umikle le'ochim. Chazene. Rabba amar eno okay. Amrinan hu'in ve'amar amrinan hu'in. Hu'in is the reason why we're allowed to cook. On Yom Tov, according to Rabba, if you did, you shouldn't cook. But if you cooked, you know why you don't get makot? Because you say, you know I'm cooking now, it's true, I'm not going to eat. But you know what I am? I'm a Moroccan. And if I have, my neighbor's going to come, or my cousin's going to come, or somebody's going to pop in, and you think, Shuma, I'm going to be without a cake and a cookie to give them. Shuma. They can't not give you a cookie in Moroccan, no? Can't. It's not happening. So you got to give the little thing, I got to give a bread, I got to give something. Huh? What?
They don't have anything to serve you, they won't let you in the house.
They're not opening the door. If there's nothing there, they're not going to open the door. If there's something put out, and even if you eat nothing, the fact that they set up the table, by the way, it's a good midah. It's a good midah. It's a good midah.
It says hoil.
Huh?
The translation you have to say hoil is since.
Since it's possible that somebody could show up in an hour, so I'm really cooking for that eventual possibility that somebody could show up.
So in a real Moroccan house, there's always stuff that you're not allowed to touch. It's only for the guests.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, sure. My wife also has stuff like you can't touch.
Really?
This is like in case someone.
Someone shows up. That was at a friend's house. And we were in our 20s, and we were
Hungry.
doing an activity with friends, and then have whiskey. He's like, no, that's for guests.
Yeah.
We're guests.
What about us?
You're not a mechubad guest.
It was so funny. my friend was just like, he looked at him.
I had a friend. They had a couch for guests. We're not allowed to sit over there.
Covered in plastic.
Covered in plastic. It was like this couch you can't sit over there.
And when the guest comes, you take off the plastic?
I guess.
Okay, so that's what we're saying over here. So Rabba, we have to see where he was from. Maybe he was from...
This.
So Rabba says, if guests will come, therefore it's not a problem. So that's why you're not getting makot. Amar li Rabba Rav Chizda lididach de'amart lo amrinan huil. Okay, Rav Chizda, you say it doesn't work. E'achofin Yom Tov to Shabbat. How are you allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos? Amar le mishum iruv tavshilim, because we do iruv tavshilim. Iruv tavshilim, of course, is we take bread and we take some food and we say that this is iruv and this is going to allow us to cook from Shabbos to Yom Tov. Mishum iruv tavshilim sharinan isura doraita. What? Because of iruv tavshilim, which is a derabanan, you're going to allow to do with nisur doraita. How are you allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos?
Can you explain the concept? Why is the rotation makes it?
You're going to see exactly this.
permissible?
Now you're going to see why. That's exactly what he's asking. Amar le midoraita tzok Shabbat nasim b'Yom Tov. B'Rabbanan digazur b'gzera shema yom fin Yom Tov lechol. Really, al pi Torah, Shabbat and Yom Tov is the same thing. According to Rab Chizda, Shabbat and Yom Tov are one kedusha. So on Yom Tov, the same way you can cook today for Yom Tov, you cook tomorrow for Friday, for Shabbos. You can cook Friday, you can cook for Shabbos. You're allowed to. Chachamim don't let you. Why do Chachamim not let you? Because if I start letting you cook from Friday to Shabbos, Yom Tov Friday to Shabbos, you're going to cook from Wednesday to Thursday, from Thursday to Wednesday. You're going to cook a regular Yom Tov to a Yom Chol. So therefore, v'keman ditzru Rabbanan iruv tavshinin itle hekera. All it is it's a recognition to show that this is a special reason why we're allowed to cook. And if you didn't do that, you're not allowed to cook. It's a siman to make sure that you're not going to do something extra. So according to Rav Chizda, you're allowed to cook. According to Rav Chizda, you're allowed to cook Shabbos Yom Tov, but we put a eruv derabbanan, eruv tavshin in derabbanan to make sure you don't come to a big mistake. The Gemara says, "Itive be'ema mesuken." Let's say you have an animal, and the animal's getting old, and you see that it's gonna die. So what do you want to do? It's Yom Tov. If it dies, you can't eat it. If you shecht it before it dies, you're allowed to eat it. So now it's Yom Tov. So what are you supposed to do? Itive be'ema mesuken lo yishrot. If it's about to die in Yom Tov, don't shecht it. Now there's only 15 minutes left in Yom Tov. But if the animal dies and then Havdalah, we're going to be finished with it. It's a big animal. So what do you do? Lo yishrot You're only allowed to shecht it if you could end up roasting at least a kazait and eat it. Now if you're hungry and you have a beima, you're allowed to shecht it? Yeah. You're allowed to roast it? Yeah. What's the minimum you have to eat?
Kazait.
A kazait. Now you have to check the whole animal to be able to eat a kazait. So you're allowed to check the whole animal for one kazait. Now that's if you have enough time to do it. Mibiod yom yachol lechol.
You saying you have to have the time?
Era kedesh yuchal lechol imeno kazait. Snim mibiod yom.
It's kind of like an eruv tashin. You have to eat at least a kazait from it in order.
Look,
to
actually,
be able
look
to
what it says
cook.
here. If you see what it says, then be like say, era kedesh yuchal, that you could. Lechol be'emem kazait stim mibiod yom. The Gemara says yachol lechol afal gab delo ba'emecha. And so Rabba's learning out. Look, that you could eat it even if you're not going to eat it. Meaning it only depends on the time. I'm not hungry, but I'm going to check it that if somebody needs to eat it, then it could be eaten. Why? Since if I decide to eat it, I could eat it. So therefore I'm allowed to check it. So it makes sense according to me. But according to you, Rav Chizda, why are you allowed to check it? If you could eat it. It said if you could eat it. Not if you're going to, if you eat it. So the answer is no, that's not how you read it. Yeah, because you're going to lose money. Mishum hefsed mamon sharina nisura doraita. What? Because hefsed mamon, you're going to lose money? Amar le in. Mishum hefsed mamon gamar b'libo lechol kazait. V'yifshar lekazait b'basar v'lo shirta. Pshat is that you could eat it. Meaning, I don't want to eat it. But since I'm going to lose money, I'm going to eat the kazait basar. What's a kazait basar? This big? I'm full. Yeah, but you're going to lose. It's $1,000 animal. It's $2,000. It's going to go down to $400. You're only going to have the skin. You're not get the meat. You're going to have to sell to a goy. Go find the goy. You're only going to get the leather. You're willing to lose it? I'll eat the kazait. Understand? So that's the way Rav Chizda learns it. There's no ho'il over here.
But both cases don't actually.
But you have to eat it, or you could just have the opportunity to eat it.
According to Rabba, the opportunity eating is enough.
Yeah.
And according to Rav Chizda, you actually have to eat it. So do we say hu'il? We don't say hu'il. In general, do we say hu'il? Rabba says yes. Rav Chizda says we don't say hu'il. Let's do a little bit more, because really today's daf is Mem Zayin. We'll just go a little bit more, and so that we won't be too late tomorrow. Tomorrow we can catch up on. Itivei lechem apanim. Nechal letisha lasara ulechad asa. No pachot velo yotzer. You know that in the Beit Mikdash, one of the mitzvahs of the Kohanim was the baked bread. We just turned to the page, and then Zayin. In the Beit Mikdash there was a showbread, and the showbread was lechem apanim that the Kohanim would bake before Shabbat. They wouldn't bake it on Shabbat. They would put it on the shulchan. It would stay fresh the whole week, and the next Shabbat they would actually eat it. The Kohanim, when they would take it off and remove them, when they would switch it, so that's when they would actually end up eating it. So you're allowed to. So this bread would be eaten either at day 9 from baking, day 10 from baking, or day 11 from baking. How does that work? L'tisha, nifa ber Shabbat, nicham l'Shabbat. L'tisha. So if it's baked on Friday and it's eaten the next Shabbos, so that's 9 days from the day of baking. Day of baking is the first day, Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. 9 days. It's 9 days, including first day, including last day. It's 9 days from the time that it was baked. So it was baked before Shabbat. That's Sarah. How could it be 10 days? Shnei. Nichal b'Shabbat. L'tisha. Chal Yom Tov, Liot Erev Shabbat. Nichal l'Shabbat. That's Sarah. So if it was Friday was Yom Tov, say bake it on Thursday. So now
2 days if it was. Yeah.
So therefore it's 10 days. Shnei Yamim Tovim Shel Rosh Hashanah. 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah was always 2 days even in Beit HaMikdash. In certain scenarios where the witnesses came too late. Nechal l'Shabbat. Nachal b'sar. Lifi she'ena dochet l'Shabbat v'lo Yom Tov. So what happened is you eat it on the next Shabbos. So that is, it would be cooked on Wednesday. It will be baked on Wednesday, and it will be in the next Shabbos, which is on 10 days later. So why? Because it's not pushing off Shabbos, and it's not pushing off Yom Tov. So you can't bake it on Shabbos, you can't bake it on Yom Tov. The Gemara says, Shabbat nasin bi Yom Tov. You told me, Rav Chizda, that according to the Torah, you're allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Amar le, bi Yom Tov, amai lo dachi Yom Tov. So according to you, this is for Shabbat. So cook it on Friday, Yom Tov, and eat it the next Shabbos. You see the question?
Yeah.
So the Gemara says, John, you got the question?
I don't get the whole concept, to be honest with you. Like,
It has to be eaten.
why do they have to bake it 9 days before?
Okay, so the halakha is like this. I'll explain to you. In the Beit Mikdash, every week there's a new group of Kohanim that come in.
Okay.
Okay, if you're a family of Kohanim, it's divided in 26 different mishmarot, and twice a year you show up with your family to work in the Beit Mikdash, and you're there for a week. So 1 week you're on vacation working in the Beit Mikdash. It's a holy time. You're getting a lot of things. Okay.
Including the Kohen Gadol, or he doesn't get switched? Kohen Gadol stays.
Kohen Gadol is always there standard. I think he's always there.
Okay.
Okay. The families switch. The families also come in the Reganim, so they're working 2 weeks, regular weeks of the year, plus 3 weeks of Chagim, or 2 weeks of Chagim, of Pesach and Pesach and Shavuot. Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot. Okay, so they're working a lot. B'kitzur. By the way, if their week ended up being on Pesach, so they don't get 2 weeks. That counts as their week.
Okay.
Okay. Now, one of the things that the Kohanim have to do is when they come in, they bake bread before they start, and on the day in, there's bread always on the show bread. It's one of the things that's in the Beit Mikdash, the one from the week, and so they take it down and they put the new one.
Okay.
So when you're leaving, so now you come in Shabbat and you're leaving Shabbat. So when you come in Shabbat, you put the new one that you baked, and when you're going to leave the next week, you're going to take it off. The new one's going to put his bread. You get to eat that bread. Mm-hmm. You eat the bread that was there. By the way, it's a big segula. You eat this much. It was Segula for a lot of things. It was a magical bread, like a holy bread. So you want to eat that bread. Now you see that it was there, and one of the miracles that stayed fresh on the showbread the whole week.
Yeah, that's also a question. Okay.
Stayed
That's
fresh.
also a question.
Stayed fresh the whole week. So when do we bake it? On Friday. You don't bake it on Shabbat. So it's either eaten 9 days later, or if Friday was Yom Tov, so you bake it on Thursday, 10 days later. Or if it's 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, so it's baked on Wednesday, 11 days later.
But 9 days includes the day that it was baked. That's what it says.
Yes, including the day.
So if it's Friday, following Saturday is eight
So,
days plus the day that
We just said according to Rav Chizda, why do you allow...
No, following Saturday is 8 days. Is 8 days. 9 days Sunday.
No, 9 days. The 9th day includes the Friday that you baked it.
And Shabbos is considered. Friday is the first day where you bake it. Friday you bake it, it's counted day 1.
Samedi à samedi, c'est 8 jours. Right?
Et il
Comme les rythmes là. Samedi, c'est samedi.
Il a été cuisiné vendredi.
Alors le 9e jour, c'est dimanche.
That's exactly what he said.
Vendredi, il a été
Yeah, but we make it on Friday.
Vendredi.
Ah, je comprends, ok.
We bake it on Friday. Now if we
And
just go
then-
a little...
And then
Exactly.
the days move after.
Now, if we go a little bit back, Rabbah said that if you cook from regular Yom Tov to the next day, so it's asur. Sorry, Rav Chizda said that. You get makot. Rabbah said you don't get makot because some guests could come. Oh yeah, so Rabbah asked Rav Chizda, so how do you allow to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos? Yom Tov to Shabbos you're allowed. Just Chachamim put Gzera. Yes? And they put Gzera, so you got to do Eruv Tavshinim. Yes?
Yeah.
So now, in the Beit HaMikdash, there'll be no Eruv Tavshinim. So according to you, Rav Chizda, Rabbah asks, you have a problem. According to you, it should be allowed to cook on Friday, Yom Tov, to eat on Shabbat. Why are you not allowing it? Why do you need to cook on Wednesday? Why do you need to cook on Thursday? No Yom Tov, regular Friday. I'm baking today, I'm going to show up to the Beit HaMikdash, I'm going to put it down. The next week, I'm going to take it out, I'm going to eat it. So I'm going to eat it on Shabbat. So, but according to Rav Chizda, you're allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbat. So why, when Yom Tov is Friday, you don't let me cook on Friday? You make me cook on Thursday. I should be allowed to cook on Friday, Yom Tov, Shavuot, and tomorrow Shabbat. I'm going to put it down, and then the next week I'm going to eat it.
The example they give is Rosh Hashanah because of 2 days.
2 days.
So if it's Thursday, Friday, then you have to cook Wednesday, which
Exactly.
means that you're outside of the 11-day window to be able to eat it on Shabbat.
No, that would be 11.
So you have.
That's 11. Wednesday, Thursday,
No, because
Friday,
if you can't,
Shabbos.
if you can't, what he's saying is if you can't cook it on a Thursday for.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying, why are you forcing me to cook it the Wednesday or the Tuesday before? Let me cook it on Thursday, even if it's Yom Tov.
No, it's just, yeah.
No?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying.
כל יום טוב להיות בערב שבת, נאכל לשבת לעשרה. 2 ימים טובים של ראש השנה, נאכל לשבת לאחד
So
עשר.
we're saying during...
לפי שאינו דוחה לא את השבת ולא את היום טוב.
Exactly. So why not cook it on Friday?
Yeah.
Which is Yom
They're
Tov.
saying, like, he's saying, this is saying, you have to cook it on
Wednesday.
On Wednesday. But he's saying, why are you telling me cook it on Wednesday? Let me cook it on Friday, even if it's Yom Tov.
I'm going to repeat it one more time.
From Yom Tov to Shabbat.
Today's Yom Rishon. Today's Sunday. Today's Yom Tov. Shavuot. 1 day. Okay? With me, John?
Mm-hmm.
The guy comes and says, tomorrow I have guests, I'm going to cook my bread for tomorrow. He did it. We ask Rav Chizda what happens. We give him a cut to the guy. Well, the guy cooked. You're not allowed to cook. You just did Nisu. You're not allowed to cook on Yom Tov. What do you mean? I cook all the time on Yom Tov. You're allowed to cook what you eat today, not what you eat tomorrow. Regularly.
Oh,
That's one.
because this is the bread for the following week.
Yeah.
It can only be, you're eating it next Friday, so yeah.
Shabbos.
Yeah, so you can't cook it on Yom Tov.
I want to go back to the beginning. Regular, today.
Oh, today, sorry.
Today's Yom Tov, okay? Nothing to do with Shabbat, nothing to do with... Today's Yom Tov. The guy cooks, he's finished eating. He's not hungry. The lady knows she has guests tomorrow, she's making cookies for tomorrow.
Okay.
She goes, what's the halakha? Rabbi says, it's okay. You shouldn't do that, don't do that. But why is it okay? You're not, are you allowed to cook on Yom Tov? Only what you're allowed to eat. You're not allowed to do melacha on Yom Tov. Are you allowed to start driving car? You can't drive a car. You can't start riding. Only what you're allowed to eat, you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. That's a special leniency. But if you're not going to eat it, you're not to cook. So if you I cooked, what happens? So Rav Chizda says, makot, you didn't have it. It's like cooking on Shabbat. Cooking food that you're not going to eat on Yom Tov is like cooking on Shabbat. You get makot. Rabbi says no, because since guests could show up, so I really cooked for somebody that could eat. Nobody eats, not my problem. That's what Rabbi says. Good?
Mm.
Rav Chizda says,
If you taste it, you get it. It makes it all right no matter what.
Just tasting is not enough. To eat a Suda, you can add a little bit. You can make a bit more. You can play with it a little bit. But you have to eat something. Okay? But you can eat something small, but not a taste. A kazait. Like when you see it.
Comme l'animal.
Okay, now Rabba asked Rab Chizda. Rab Chizda, you think you're allowed to cook? So why are you allowed to cook from Friday Yom Tov to Shabbos? Answers Rab Chizda, because the Torah permits it really. Because Shabbos and Yom Tov is one. Yom Tov and Shabbos is one. When you cook on Yom Tov Friday for Shabbat, you're allowed to do that. So why do we need to do Eruv Tavshilin? Because if you don't do Eruv Tavshilin, you're going to think you're allowed to cook from Monday to Tuesday. So I make you do on Thursday Eruv Tavshilin to remind you that here there's a difference between the regular time of cooking. So when I cook on Friday Yom Tov for Shabbos, I'm not going to end up doing that in another situation. That's what the Rav Chizda answers. The Rabba comes and challenges. Oh yeah, I have a big question for you. In the Beit HaMikdash, when the Kohanim would be showing up on Shabbos, but it was the day after Yom Tov. Friday was Shavuot, the next day Shabbos. They didn't cook their bread on Friday. They cooked it on Thursday, regular day, and they're going to eat it the next Shabbos. So according to you, it should be allowed to cook on the Friday for the Shabbos. Because you're telling me that Shabbat and Yom Tov is one thing. So you're allowed to cook on Friday for the Shabbat. Why are you making them cook on Thursday? Kusha knew Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda answers. I'll read it again. V'i amart so keshabbat nasim b'yom tov, amai lo dache. Yom tov, amai lo leche yom tov. Amar le, shrut krova hitiru, shrut rechoka lo hitiru. You're right. But Chachamim in the Beit Mikdash give an exception to the rule. There's no Eruv Tavshilin over here, right? So Chachamim waive the rule in the Beit HaMikdash only for the next Shabbos. They're not going to waive it for the Shabbos. The Shabbos, it would be eating it tomorrow, Friday, no problem. If you're eating it Shabbos, Friday, you're cooking on Friday, you're going to eat the next Shabbat, I would allow that. But you're eating it 8 days later, 9 days later, I'm not going to allow you to cook on Friday for the next Shabbat. That's what says Rav Chizda. Uri Rashbag, oh yeah, but the Rashbag does allow. Damar Mishum Rabbi Shimon, Ben Hasagan, Dochet Yom Tov, Veno Dochet Yom Tov. So Shabbat, מה יקרה ממר? דוחת יום טוב. Please read me what it says over there.
According to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, the Lechem HaPanim is baked on Friday, even if that day is a Yom Tov. The only exception is where the Friday is Yom Kippur, in which case the baking of the Lechem HaPanim is advanced to Thursday. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel maintains
okay, got it. So you're allowed to bake on Yom Tov for the Shabbat, but you can't bake Yom Kippur for the Shabbat. So you're always allowed to bake Yom Tov. So that means, according to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, you're allowed to bake the Friday for the next Shabbat. So you see that it does permit it. So why are you not permitting it? So he answers, but it would be Yom Tov, it would be Yom Kippur on Friday, then you can't bake on that Yom Kippur for the next Shabbat. So his answer is a very simple answer. So really it's a machloket when Chachamim waive the Isur de Rabbanan in Beit Mikdash from Friday to Yom Tov, from Friday to Shabbat. Do they do it only for the next Shabbat, which is the next day, or even for the second Shabbat? And Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is going to say that it's even for the next Shabbat. So he says everything is fine till next week. So really, if we just review that, Rav Chizda says that you're allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbat. You need to do an Eruv Tavshilin. In the Beit HaMikdash, there's no Eruv Tavshilin, but we waive the restriction. You're allowed to cook from, but it doesn't work. We won't waive the restriction from cooking from Yom Tov Friday to the next Shabbat. We're only allowed for the Shabbat, which is the day right after, since you're not eating the bread on that day, so we're not going to let you. We're going to make you do it on Thursday. But Rabban Gamliel says no. I waive the restriction even for the second Shabbat. So therefore, that's why he said that, and that's not a machloket on me, because for the next Shabbat he permits it, and I don't permit it. Chazak u'bo.